Kiana!
Oh, hello, boys. Expecting somebody else? Oh, actually, Ms. Levine, it's Finn.
Oh, sorry, sweetheart. I always get you two confused. Come on in. I just want to talk to you for a second.
Sure, I'm not in trouble or anything, am I?
No, I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to be sending out an email later today that shuts down the school for the next 2 weeks.
Wait, didn't you just say over the PA that we're staying open?
Yeah, sorry. Well, I just want to make sure you're ready to uphold your duties.
My duties?
Yes, as caretaker of the school.
Whoa, what are you talking about?
Oh, silly. It's all laid out in your Wildcat Nation contract, subsection 8C. It states, in the event of a school closure, the president of Wildcat Nation will serve as caretaker of the campus.
That's ridiculous. I didn't sign up for that. Get Sarah to do it.
Now, Finn, we both know you're the right fit for this job. And if you do it, I'll let you be the salutatorian.
You'll let me be the salutatorian?
Yes, Finn. Think about the joy you'd bring to the class. Think of the applause.
Yeah, okay, I'm in.
Physically, it's not a very demanding job, so it's perfect for a kid like you. The only thing that can get a bit trying up here is the tremendous sense of isolation.
Well, that just so happens to be exactly what I need. Well, if I'm outlining my salutatorian speech, peace and quiet is just perfect.
Great. Well, before I turn you over to your duties, there's one other thing I think we should talk about. Now, I don't want to sound melodramatic, but it's been known to give a couple people second thoughts about the job.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
Well, the school's known to change a person. See, one of my predecessors, a principal from the 40s, got so fed up with his job one day that he walked down to the ocean and faked his own death.
Well, that is quite a story.
Still hard for me to believe it actually happened here, but it did. I think you can appreciate why I wanted to tell you about it.
I certainly can, but I'll be fine. 2 weeks of isolation, easy peasy. There's an old Irish folk song about a pub with no beer, like a school with no students. A party starts here. A party started here. Like a school with no students. Like a school with no students. Hello, Finny. Come pray with us. Come pray with us, Finny. Forever and ever and ever. Stackog? Huh, weird graffiti. Hey, Mr. Glosser, it's good to see you again, buddy old pal.
Good evening, Mr. Rawlings. What'll it be, sir?
Oh, I think a game of blackjack will do. How much will I owe you?
No charge to you, Mr. Rawlings.
No charge.
My school buck system is down. Orders from the house.
Orders from the house, eh? Now, I'm the kind of guy who likes to know exactly who's buying his blackjack games.
It's not a matter that concerns you, Mr. Rawlings. At least not at this point.
Anything you say, G-Man, anything you say. Hey, didn't casino night already end?
Why, no, sir. I don't believe so.
That night was months ago, wasn't it?
That's strange, sir. I haven't had any recollection of that at all.
Say, Mr. Glosser, you used to run this place, didn't you? Class of '83? Yeah, you were the caretaker of school spirit.
I'm sorry to differ with you, sir, but you are the caretaker. You've always been the caretaker. I should know, sir. I've always been here. You see, Finn, we are SI. And now you can be too. Now and forever, you are SI.
I'm SI. I am SI. I am SI.
Now, don't you have a speech to practice? You wouldn't want to keep the audience waiting.
My audience?
What if I were to tell you all of SI is watching you right now?
Well, hello there, SI. I didn't see you there. Thanks for visiting. Well, you know, it gets so lonely in this great big school all by myself. You know, a guy can feel real isolated. But I'm glad you're here. See, I've got a speech to practice. I'm the Salutatorian. And this is my show. Well, you think I don't look the part? allow me to freshen up a bit before we begin then. Ah, that's better. You know, I'd like this speech to be as close to a Ricky Gervais Golden Globe speech as possible. You know, I hate all of you, so let's go ahead and burn some bridges, because I'm never going to see any of you ever again. Well, perhaps not that extreme, but let's sit back and remember that laughter is the best medicine. Besides, actual medicine. It's strange being back, and although I don't have Aiden Pigeon's perfect pitch, I can still hear the bells ringing, hear our class clapping during all the wrong moments in Ms. McFarland's X periods, and I can hear the boom chicka boom guy sounding his signature mating call. And because I'm on campus, I can visit all my favorite spots one last time. I can finally grieve the loss of the annex in peace, for it is written, "My body is a temple, and the annex is where we prayed." And because I'm here, I can slip an extra movie or two into Stiegler's collection. And I can finally take a dip in the 4th floor pool. I wish Laura McCormick was here. If SI is a cell, then the teachers are certainly the mitochondria. No, they're not just faces me and my friends are going to miss seeing in the halls next year. They're coaches, teachers, doctors, mentors, and in Mr. Santos' case, lovers in the nighttime. Coach Hickox in freshman year PE taught me to always look out in my peripherals for incoming danger, especially if that danger was that one kid who showered naked every day after swim unit. Mr. McGuire taught a lot of us what it felt like to get our first detention after he told the class this is a group assignment, so it's okay if you get the same answers, and then flagged all of us for plagiarism. But he did use Monty Python and the Holy Grail as supplemental material for the Middle Ages, so we're tight. Mr. Bowe taught me how to make a bad situation into something good, like when he said, right after that Paris newspaper place was bombed, I took a 2-week vacation there. Great scenery, great food, cheapest hotel room and tickets ever. If SI became my home away from home, Senora Bricker certainly became my mother. Hola, mama. Mr. Bjorkquist's film class taught me that love can be as simple as boy meets girl, while the faith, film, and fiction teachers expanded that definition to boy meets boy, girl meets girl, they meets them, boy meets skeleton father, girl meets heptapod. Ms. Wolf and Mr. Ugawa taught us that fashion is just as interesting as you make it. Mr. Lannon taught me that ecological preservation is as simple as walking to the earth, getting rained on, walking to a different part of the earth, getting rained on more, and then coming back to SI. Father Stiegler taught us what it meant to be Catholic with his endless quotations. Some not included in the list are, some people in this world deserve to be hit in the side of the head with a 2x4. And, hundo be the reason. And who could forget watching The Miracle of Life with old Papa Stiegs and watching little Puxatawny Phil pop out to see his shadow? Mr. Stecker in his chemistry class taught me all about the concept of absolute zero. Another absolute zero I learned about was the profits Jeff Glosser made from Casino Night. Ms. Miller-Fleeg taught me that parking your car in your garage is not the same as somebody else parking their car in the side of your house. Jason and Dewey from the Commons taught me that a smile and a nod can go a long way in life. Dr. Morris taught us that the classroom professor parts of Indiana Jones are probably far more accurate than the high adventure parts in terms of getting a degree in archaeology. Mr. Jackinich's class taught me that some relationships are forged in fire. His class made me cry almost every night first semester. But he also inspired me to name my child Finian, Finlay, Phineas, Flynn, Finnegan. Well, off to Narnia. Mr. Castro and Mr. Jew's psychology electives taught me all about Pavlov's dogs and classical conditioning. I'm sure Father Reese and Roger wouldn't know anything about that. It's amazing to see this class's growth from freshman to senior year. Don't you remember walking around 5 feet tall? Matt Silva knows what I mean. But I remember being incredibly nervous every single day. More nervous than when the deans confiscate your phone and find the Visco app. More nervous than when your finger doesn't properly scan in Jason's line in the Commons. More nervous than when the esports match has ended, but the critical ops team is still discussing strategy in the student center. But that nervous freshman energy soon transformed into senior stress of college applications. But our work isn't unrewarded. We're sending molecular biologists, pre-law students, and doctors to schools like Brown, Cornell, Stanford, and Northwestern. Speaking of which, although Connor Moore got in first round and I got rejected, at least my Morticia didn't reject my promposal. And I think above all, the class of 2020 was really cheated out of that second semester post-college acceptance experience. I mean, the possibilities were endless. Senior skip day every day, no dress code, communion wine in the water fountains. Perhaps the universe knew what mental torture that would produce in the minds of our teachers and had to put a halt to our cosmic power of chaos. But out of chaos comes order, and nothing says order like a list, which brings me to the old grad at grad. You know, those 6 values they say we'll embody by the end of our time at SI? Unfortunately, because the school year was cut short, the instilling process wasn't properly completed. Without all the time in the oven, we've all come out half-baked. And some of our Wildcats are left far stronger in some suits than others. And Ignatius is open to growth. I see this value in senior Rory McMahon, who went from a small Irish leprechaun to a great Scottish warrior in between junior and senior year. Speaking of growth, could you guys check out this thing on my... Oh, sorry, never mind. That's perhaps one of the most important values that SI teaches us, to stand up, dust yourself off, and get back in the saddle, especially if that saddle's a Range Rover that Mommy and Daddy bought you for your sweet 16. And Ignatius is intellectual, and although the following individuals shall remain anonymous, you know who you are. Take, for instance, the young woman in sophomore year religion with Ms. Miller-Fleeg. Ms. Miller-Fleeg asked me, Finn, what objects might the Jews bring with them when being kicked out of their homes during the Holocaust? I replied, family heirlooms, hats, jewels, to which this young scholar asked, they had jewels back then? And I remember recently an individual, I don't remember exactly who it was, asking me, Finn, how do you spell UCLA? But I like to borrow from Gov author Brian Stevenson when he said, each of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done, or in this case said. Remember, students, that we are the full summation of our chi highs and our chi lows. And Ignatius is religious. I see this in our class in the astounding amount of members in the campus ministry choir. Seriously, if the football team isn't mandated to be here, there are more kids in the risers than there are in the seats. A few more members, and I think Mr. D-Lag can be legally classified as a cult leader. And although at prayer services we're clapping off beat and singing off key and building a cardboard Christmas tree, we're coming together to praise our one God, our one Lord, our one vague muscular white man with a beard or a sword. And I feel like over the 4 years, the inherent comedy of FML describing a church service wears off. So here's your reminder, FML. And Ignatius is committed to justice. I see this value in Ryan Mandel and Paul Ikeda using their con law knowledge to hashtag free deck. Speaking of hashtags, hashtag GovStiegler taught us that we're about to enter a very unfair system. But let's not forget the unfair system we just left. I mean, the last rule in the student handbook is literally, we reserve the right to change any rule at any time without telling you. Ugh, I thought the end of Hamlet was depressing. And although I ended my 4 years at SI with an uneven 9 detentions, I'm not sad. To some, it was an hour of boredom, but to me, it was an hour of an uninterrupted view of the back of Bill Isham's bald, shiny head. And Ignatius is called to leadership. Now, when I say leader, most would think of student body president Tony Liano. And Tony and I have a lot in common. We both do theater, we've shared many roles. But what's important is that we've both stolen student council presidencies from Izzy Goodrow. But I'd like to shine a spotlight on Ms. Goodrow today. She puts in due and diligent work in everything she does, from planning dances and organizing prom to doing fundraisers, the list goes on and on. Speaking of getting Wildcat memes shut down, many of you may remember that I revealed myself as successor to the page at our freshman year awards assembly. Now, that reveal won me 5 detentions, 3 meetings with the deans, and 1 call home to my parents. Will I be foolish enough to reveal my successor today? Heck yeah, it's the backflip kid from the football games. And Ignatius is loving. I see this in our class with our love for each other, our love for our homies, but most importantly, our love for Father Greg Boyle. But you gotta put that love into action, as Father G says. I know I have. I put my love for him into action by getting an actual tattoo of him on my heart. Hey, Father Greg, how are you? Hey, homie, come down to Homeboy, we'll get you fixed up. Oh, thanks, Father G, that's so nice. It gets lonely. I'm majoring in radio, television, and film next year, and perhaps the most exciting part is getting to base characters after you all, so here's some storyboard ideas. Aiden Deal and MC Phelan star as Beauty and the Beast, and damn does Aiden glow in that yellow gown. A brand new biopic comes out starring Luke Yakiminich as Lizzo in Why Men Great Till They Gotta Be Great. Michelle Conti gets her own romance podcast called Bleeding Heart, Bleeding Ears. Audrey Rumberger and Luca Ornstein star in a reboot of 50 First Dates. The entire Red Sea stars as extras in a spin-off of Friday Night Lights. After student council fails on their promise to get us lights for the football field, they star in this show called Saturday Afternoon Sunlight. And finally, Knight Rider stars in a brand new performance art piece given purely on House Party called Expose Expose. You know, people say 2020 is so unexpected, but I think we as a class were perfectly prepared by Crystal Alacraz's 2018 Halloween party. I mean, it was all fun and games in the beginning until everyone was suddenly forced to go home. What started as an early senior skip day on Chrissy Field turned into senior skip weeks and senior skip months. And instead of FDR, I'd now like to become FSR and offer you some comfort in these trying times with a little fireside chat. Now, I don't mean to bring the mood down, but quarantine can be a dangerous time for addictions. Like, somebody seriously needs to take away the send-all capability from Mr. Calabrese and Ms. Wolf.
Oh yeah!
Some politicians fear that the quarantine may coincide with another California drought, but I'm not afraid. In case of emergency, we can glean all the moisture we need from Joe Celentano's palms. It's important during quarantine to keep mentally sharp and active, and there's no better way to do this than playing board games. I remember Sophia Pelosi and Kettering Compte playing chess on campus during our final days, but they weren't the only ones playing board games. I was playing Monopoly with the junior females, Mr. Vergara, Mr. Castro, and Mr. Bjorkquist were playing Operation, and Danny Slevin and Karushkam were playing Rock'em Sock'em Robots. You know, in times like these, we look towards our elected officials, and it seems like the San Francisco bubble isn't too supportive of President Trump. But let's remember that SI represents both sides of the political spectrum. With the Young Democrats Club and the Callahan Society, the SI Elite Motorsport Association, the Young Republicans Club, we actively participate in politics, because Mr. Siegler always says, it is not a spectator sport. Streaming services are all the rage these days. With Apple Music, Netflix, Spotify, Amazon Prime, SITV, they're all bogging down my bills. I'm just kidding, SI students don't pay their own bills. But take a moment to sit back, relax, escape through the soothing tones of I Heart You by RC3 or New Beamer by Jay Wavy featuring Lil Shopping Cart. But it's not just the rappers in 2020 with the talent for tunes. From Man Wonderland and Day Haze to Knights of the Heights and the Marauders, we know how to rock. And although some may crown Gemma Block as the Bob Dylan of our class, let's not forget when Matt Yee reinvented pop. I'd like to talk seriously just for a moment and tell a story I've never told anyone before. I had to go really badly one day, and the last stall in the girls' foyer bathroom was the only one open. I rushed in and... no, I'm just kidding. We all know it was Ginger Reese. Back to being serious, this is genuinely a true story I've never told anybody before. It was the first day of freshman year, and I was sitting at this very table, in this very shirt, with my then bestie Dante Briggs. We were scrolling through Instagram, trying our best to navigate it with our hands shaking worse than San Francisco in 1906, nervous as all heck for the day to come, although I thought Dante was just doing jazz hands. Then a woman approached the table. She was right here, and she smiled sweetly and said, "You boys look nervous." Miss Sarah Giffen then proceeded to spend her next 15 minutes assuaging any of the fears we had about the coming day through simple conversation. As many of you may well know, Ms. Giffen passed away later that year, and I never got to tell her that story or how much it meant to me. It was the first time that I ever felt like 2001 37th Avenue was a home. And it was through that simple act of kindness. You know, you can boil down all these great Ignatian ideals we have, like cura personalis and magis and ad maiorem de gloriam, down to that simple act that she did. And for those of you who still don't understand those words, I figured I'd throw the Latin scholars a bone for learning an unspeakable, unreadable language for 4 years. But my point is, you don't have to go out into the battlefield and get shot in the knee with a cannonball to live in the limping footsteps of Ignatius. Sometimes it's as simple as walking up to somebody in need and giving them a shoulder to lean on. So, class of 2020, I'd like to pull a Zan Roberti and borrow from a little Kurt Vonnegut. A famous author of existential horror, Kurt once wrote, "True terror is to wake up one morning and realize that your high school class is running the country." And while this passage was intended to strike fear in the hearts of readers, like seeing an 8-foot-tall humanoid bounding at you from icy peak to icy peak, or seeing an 8-foot-tall Luca Cornelia walking directly in your path in the hallways, I'm not scared. I'm comforted. In the year 2049, all 54 United States of America will be unified under the Democratic female presidency of Izzy Goodrow, accompanied by the Republican vice presidency of Olivia Bick to keep her in check. Mikey Harrison will hypnotize the masses with his dreamy eyes as White House press secretary, as the Secretary of Agriculture Kurt Schober works with Surgeon General Nick Caceres to approve revolutionary new medicines. Anna Parker and Sarah Pites will channel their inner Elle Woods as co-attorney generals. Secretary of State Jack O'Keefe will sign aid to Supreme Dictator Kaylee Schaffeloy as her neo-feminist authoritarian nation comes under the attack of Tom Quach and his Communist Federation of Pet Nation. Ministers of Propaganda Crystal Trin, Bella Chichioko, and Annalise Gier will use their SITV experience to keep the masses informed. And I await the day in which 5-star Fleet Admiral of the Navy George Hollister pilots the first ship through the gates of Atlantis, accompanied by a swarm of drones from Secretary of Defense Jackson Marr. But our class has not only the power to run the government, but the entire world. I await the day in which Daria Clark and Ed Hagape lead prayer from the Vatican balcony, and Owen Veit dazzles audiences at Carnegie Hall with his symphonic organ he built using only pianos and insulin pumps. Kaylee Goldstein will use the soccer skills we learned together in middle school to win the World Cup, while Will Newhoff cracks the code on extraterrestrial communication after discovering they speak Rubik's. I'll present an Oscar to Emma Rigatti for her film starring Dante Briggs, and most importantly, Tony Liano will inherit Jeff Glosser's job at SI. You know, freshman year, my greatest concern was having no friends, and now as a senior, my greatest concern is losing all of you. But as we all go off into the world, I'd like to leave you with the words that a wise Latin man once said to me. In every heaven you'll find some hell, and there's a welcome in each farewell. Remember the good above the bad, and feel happy, forever happy, completely happy, and a tiny bit sad. So, to the class of 2020, I miss all of you more than I miss Peach Tea Snapple from the Commons, and I love you like Kanye loves Kanye. Signed, XOXO, Gossip Girl, a.k.a. Finnegan Sykes Rawlings. No! It's not good enough. They are going to laugh at you, and in the bad way. This speech is important, Finn! Come on, get it together! Just right, that's all I need. Just write a good speech.
Finn? Finn? Where are you? Finn? Finn, you working on your speech? You here, buddy? Finn's Salutatorian speech.
Do you like it?
Ah! Finn!
My speech. Do you like it?
Put your mask on, Finn. Stay back 6 feet.
Oh, I've been left here for 3 months, Michelle. I don't need a mask. You know, you left me here. You went ahead and canceled Day on the Green. You canceled the food fair. And then you had to go ahead and cancel the musical. And it's like they always say, Michelle, all work and no play makes Finn a dull boy. A primitive tool, but it'll do the trick.
You'll never catch me, Finn. I've seen your freshman mile time.
That's what I'm sensitive about. Little wildcat, let me in. By the quarantined hairs on my chinny chin chin. Or I'll boom chicka boom, and I'll cheer your door down! Ah! Ah! Open! Ah! Cool! Here's 2020!
Wait, before you come in, let me put on my mask.
Oh, yep, you're right. My bad. Me too. Ah!
Kiana, I'm sorry. 2019 Comedy Award, his greatest weakness.
Shine on, Thanos car. Shine on.
And a rendezvous. Your eyes held a message tender, saying I surrender all my love to you.